We live in an age obsessed with freedom. Everywhere we turn, we hear things like be yourself, live your truth, and live freely. We talk about freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and freedom to define truth for ourselves. We chase it in every direction, from the way we live, to the way we think, to the way we love. And yet, for all our talk about liberty, our souls can feel more trapped than ever. We've broken the old chains of tradition, the chains of faith, of moral law, only to find ourselves bound by new ones: addiction, anxiety, isolation, and pride. It seems that in our pursuit of freedom, we've only found another kind of slavery. C.S. Lewis, the Oxford scholar, author of the Chronicles of Narnia, and one of Christianity's sharpest minds, saw this coming long before our modern world ever did. He wrote in The Weight of Glory, "We are half-hardened creatures, fooling about with drink and sex and ambition when infinite joy is offered to us." That single sentence captures the tragedy of the human condition. We chase freedom in the very things that enslave us. And so the question that Lewis leaves echoing across time is this: are we truly free, or are we only slaves to our own ideas of freedom? Lewis understood something that most of modern society has completely forgotten. Freedom, divorced from truth, doesn't liberate the soul. It corrupts it and enslaves it. In his writing, The Screwtape Letters, a chilling fictional correspondence between a senior demon and his apprentice, Lewis exposes the way evil twists our desire for freedom. The elder demon, Screwtape, warns that the surest way to destroy a man is to make him believe that freedom means doing whatever he wants. Does that sound familiar? Lewis writes through Screwtape's voice. The more often he feels without acting, the less he will be able ever to act. And, in the long run, the less he will be able to feel. It's a haunting picture of a generation so obsessed with autonomy that it becomes emotionally numb and spiritually paralyzed. Lewis believed that when humans reject the moral order that God has woven into creation, their freedom becomes just another name for captivity. He once said in The Problem of Pain, "The doors of hell are locked on the inside," meaning that no one is dragged into slavery, we choose it. We build our own prisons, and then we decorate the walls with portraits of what we believe freedom looks like. We lock ourselves inside, convinced that the door is always open if we ever wish to leave. And we marvel at how liberating our version of freedom feels, never realizing that with each passing second, the illusion of choice fades away, and we find ourselves enslaved to our own desires. We shout, "Be yourself." But Lewis would gently ask, which self? The one that's distorted by sin, or the one renewed by grace? Because freedom without truth doesn't lead to joy, it just leads to ruin. In Mere Christianity, perhaps his most famous theological work, Lewis describes free will as God's greatest gift and his greatest risk. He writes, "If a thing is free to be good, then it is also free to be bad, and free will is what has made evil possible." It's a sobering truth. God could have created a world where obedience was automatic, a world of moral robots, a world where there was no choice but forced obedience to a preset story and a preset narrative. But he didn't, because love that's forced isn't love at all. And so he gave us the ability to make a choice. knowing full well that choice could destroy us. Every decision, Lewis said, shapes the eternal part of who we are. He wrote, every time you make a choice, you are turning the central part of you into something a little different than it was before. Each choice pushes us closer to heaven or drags us deeper into hell. Each act of obedience bends us towards the light, and each sin towards the shadow. That's the paradox of freedom. God gave it as the doorway to love, but when we misuse it, it becomes the path to slavery. The serpent's promise in Eden was the first false gospel of self-sovereignty, the first quiet whisper of find your freedom yourself. And the result wasn't enlightenment or the promised freedom. It was exile, slavery, and death. Lewis never lived to see the digital age. He had no smartphone, no TikTok, no algorithm, and yet his words in the Abolition of Man read like a prophecy. He warned that when mankind rejects objective truth, it doesn't become free, it becomes enslaved by appetite, by impulse, by desire. The universal law of right and wrong, written by God on every human heart. He cautioned that if we cut ourselves off from it, we lose the ability to even understand what freedom is. He wrote, when man ceases to believe in God, he doesn't believe in nothing. He believes in anything. Today, we've made ourselves our highest deity. We call it self-expression. We call it authenticity. And we even call it living life to the fullest. But Lewis would call it idolatry. Because when you build your identity on yourself, on your emotions, on your achievements, and on your desires, you've built it on shifting sand. You become a slave to the never-ending need for approval, to the next trend, to the next high. Freedom isn't the ability to do whatever you want. Freedom is the power to do what is right. True freedom has always been misunderstood. We often mistake it for autonomy, the idea that life's highest goal is to answer to no one, to carve out our own path, and to live without restraint. But that kind of freedom, as C.S. Lewis might say, is an echo of the garden. The same whisper that told Adam and Eve they could be like God if only they could break free from his rule. When we detach freedom from truth, we end up worshiping ourselves. Every decision becomes a declaration of independence from the one who gave us breath. Yet in our rebellion, something tragic happens. The will that was made to serve righteousness becomes enslaved to impulse. We call it liberation, but it's just simply a different kind of bondage, one wrapped in the language of self-expression and choice. True freedom doesn't come from the absence of boundaries, but from alignment with reality, with God's reality. It's the freedom of a train running smoothly on its tracks, not the chaos of a locomotive derailing in the name of independence. And without truth, even our freedom becomes just another kind of chain, gilded, polished, and praised, but still binding. Because if there is no truth, then there is no right or wrong. And if there is no right or wrong, then freedom itself loses any kind of meaning. We aren't free, we're just untethered, drifting in a sea of our own contradictions, calling the same waves pushing us under the ocean our home. Real freedom, the kind Lewis so often pointed to, is found not in doing what we please, but in becoming what we were created to be, fully human, fully alive, and fully surrendered to the truth that sets us free. In The Great Divorce, Lewis paints a powerful vision of heaven and hell. The damned souls in his story are not screaming in torture, they're whispering in their own pride. They aren't prisoners, they're volunteers. They choose their own way. They cling to their own freedom, even as it devours them. Lewis described them as people who would rather reign in a gray, ghostly hell than kneel in a glorious heaven. He was showing us that hell isn't the absence of freedom, it's actually freedom unrestrained by love. Romans 6:16 puts it plainly. Do you not know that when you present yourselves to someone as obedient slaves, You are slaves to the one that you obey, either of sin, which leads to death, or of obedience, which leads to righteousness. Everyone serves something. The only question is who or what is going to be your master. Lewis warned that the man who insists, "I am my own," is already enslaved to his own freedom, because to belong only to yourself is to belong to nothing greater than yourself. True freedom cannot exist apart from the one who defines it. Lewis's theology always circled back to surrender, the paradox that in giving up control, we actually gain everything. In Mere Christianity, he wrote, "The more we let God take us over, the more truly ourselves we become, because he made us." That single line shatters the illusion that following Christ means losing yourself. Lewis knew, and he lived, that surrender is not the death of individuality. It's actually the restoration of it. The gospel doesn't erase who you are. It refines it and redeems who you were meant to be. When Jesus said, "If the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed," he wasn't promising unrestrained independence. He was promising redemption, freedom from sin, freedom from self, and freedom from death itself. Lewis referred to this in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe as a deeper magic from before the dawn of time. It's the paradox of the cross. The symbol of execution became the doorway to life. In Christ, the slave becomes a son, the captive becomes a citizen, and the sinner becomes a saint. And that, Lewis believed, is where real freedom begins, not in defiance, but in true devotion. C.S. Lewis was no stranger to doubt. He wrestled with grief even after his wife's death. He grappled with reason, philosophy, and pain. And yet his faith stood because he understood something deeper than logic, that freedom apart from God always leads back to slavery. The question remains for each of us: are we free, or are we just slaves to our own definition of freedom? Our culture says, "Follow your heart." Lewis would respond, "The heart is deceitful above all things." Culture says, "Define your truth." Lewis would remind you that truth is not invented, it's discovered. Culture says, "Be your own God." But Lewis would quietly point to a wooden cross and whisper, "That's what our true freedom costs." Because the gospel turns the world upside down, the freest man is the most bound to Christ. And the only true freedom is found by surrendering it. So perhaps the real question isn't whether God enslaves us, but whether our false freedoms have already done so. Lewis once said, "When I finally gave up and admitted that God was God, I was perhaps the most dejected and reluctant convert in all of England." But he would later say that surrender was the moment he truly began to live, because Lewis recognized that only in Christ do we ever stop being slaves to freedom, and we get to start living as children of grace. Something Lewis understood that we seem to have lost in our current culture is that only in Christ do we stop being slaves to freedom